Science and technology and innovation, these are indispensable in the modern economy, in the modern world.
The problem being that, while we have our PhDs here, there aren't enough of us. And everywhere else in the world, for research to be successful, you need a complete research group.
It's very important that the PAASE members and scientists based in the Philippines are continuously in contact, so we will know the needs of the Filipinos and opportunities that the Filipinos can have to do science with their PAASE counterparts.
I think that is one of the good programs that they keep on supporting some of the initiatives of our researchers and scientists here in the country.
The role of this cooperation among these government agencies really is to be able to attract science and technology global-based companies to set up shop here. And that is really key in terms of developing the science and technology innovation ecosystem in the country.
We really need to ratchet up the appreciation, the recognition of the importance of science and technology and innovation.
And we are all trying to attain what we call the common good, the greater, higher, long-term good of the Filipino people.
Greetings, everyone. This is Gisela Concepcion, President of the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering. I'd like to welcome you to PAASE Fireside Chats, episode 33, publishing in PAASE journal SciEnggJ, made easy by Clarivate's ScholarOne. We have two distinguished guests today, and we would like them to convince our audience to publish in SciEnggJ, currently an ISI listed journal. And it is powerfully run by Clarivate's manuscript management platform called ScholarOne. For those of you who are new to our Fireside Chats, I'd like to say that PAASE is an organization of about 500 PhD level scientists, engineers, and medical doctors of Philippine descent based in the Philippines, in the United States, and other countries. And we try to promote what we call agham at kalaman para sa bayan. Okay? Science and knowledge for our country. Another tagline is SNT-based volunteerism, outreach to Philippine regions. So we are doing this for the benefit of the whole academic, scientific, and engineering community. And this includes our very important faculty and researchers, not just in Philippine universities you know of, like UP, Ateneo de la Salle, UST, Mapua, etc., or US universities where our PAASE members are based. We are doing this for state universities and colleges and private higher education institutions. At this point, I'd like to introduce my very valued, highly esteemed co-host for this event, Dr. Annabel Villalobos, who is a DOST Balik scientist based at Central Mindanao University in Bukidnon. She's advising faculty on many projects in Bukidnon and helping farmers through the value chain that she's creating. She's a consultant and research fellow of Johnson & Johnson Pharmaceuticals USA from 2001 to the present. She's a corresponding member of the Philippine National Academy of Science and Technology. Dr. Villalobos is a most generous supporter and advocate of SciEnggJ, and we thank her for that. And she's now a member of the SciEnggJ Advisory Board. For everyone's knowledge and interest, Dr. Villalobos has supported so many young Filipino PhDs through their PhD studies in the United States, and some of them are still there, while others have returned home to the Philippines and joined universities, not just in Manila, but in the provinces. So at this point, I'd like to turn over the floor to my co-host, Dr. Villalobos, who will introduce our guest speakers. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Anne Villalobos, and I'm privileged to acknowledge the presence of 3 young potential PAASE members who are present right now. Dr. Romel Dator from 3M in Minnesota, Dr. Morwena Solivio from University of Minnesota, and has just returned back and accepted a position at West Visayas State University in Iloilo City, and Dr. Fulgent Coritico of Central Mindanao University. I'm also privileged to introduce our distinguished speakers. The first speaker is Dr. Ju Singh, or C. Is a solutions consultant for Southeast Asia of Clarivate Analytical. He specializes in scientific academic research. As consultant of Clarivate, he provides decision support service and conduct training workshops for Clarivate customers. He has authored 15 papers in international peer-reviewed journals. Prior to joining Clarivate, he was a postdoctoral researcher at the National University of Singapore, where he completed his doctoral degree and as well as his BS honors program in chemistry. Our second speaker is Professor Rigoberto Gobet Advincula, a multi-awarded and distinguished Filipino scientist making an impact in polymers and nanotechnology. He has led the development of the state-of-the-art research facilities in the Philippines, together with the researchers from DOST, ITDI, and MIRDC, the Advanced Manufacturing Center, or AMCen. He is professor of the Case Western Reserve University and also professor researcher at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville and Oak Ridge National Laboratory under the UT ORNL Governor's Chair of Advanced and Nanostructured Materials. Gobet has graduated many Filipino PhD students in his labs, and many of them returned back to serve the country. So today is an exciting time for PAASE and SciEng Journal. I give the floor to our first speaker, Dr. C.
All right, thank you for having me. Can you confirm that you can hear me well?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Just give me a moment. I would like to just share my screen. Sorry, just one moment. All right, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes.
Give me a moment. I can't see my own screen. Good grief. I'm having some problems with my PowerPoint, so just sorry, just give me half a minute. I will just open it up again. All right. I hope you can see my screen. So I have been invited here today really to talk about how we are supporting SciEnggJ as the journal. I will say some words about that perhaps a little bit later. I believe you guys are very familiar with the journal, so I will leave it to the PAASE members to talk more about that. More importantly, what I wanted to share with you today, it's more about capacity building and how do you get the skill sets required to successfully publish not just in SciEnggJ, but also international journals of your choice. So I am happy to introduce to you what we call the WAS Academy. So WAS stands for the Web of Science. So it's called a Web of Science Academy, and Web of Science is formerly known as ISI. So what does this academy do? This academy, that it is actually a freemium academy, meaning to say there's a free version that all of you on the call can use today at no cost. And there is also a paid version that would entail a fee and additional features and functionality. So the purpose of having the Web of Science Academy is really for us to have an opportunity to provide training, capacity building for early career researchers. So the platform, as you can see here, just this is actually how it looks like, the Clarivate Web of Science Academy. You can see here that there are various courses that I have completed, and then this co-reviewing with a mentor I have not completed. I can enroll with it if I want. And the idea here is really for you to be able to log on to the platform, look at the courses that we have, and there is also a great community of mentors that are on the platform, and you can communicate with them of the issues that you have with regards to your research, your writing, your literature review, etc. So we are very fortunate that many of these volunteer mentors are with us, and they are very happy to form relationships with you if you are keen to join the platform. And many of them are based globally across all different research fields. So the Web of Science Academy is not developed by Clarivate ourselves only. We actually worked with renowned researchers globally and a number of Nobel Prize winners as well. And after you have completed the course, both the mentors as well as the mentees will be having certification, and you will have a electronic certificate, which I will show you in the next few slides. So this is how it looks like. This is actually a paid version of the Web of Science Academy. So we are partnering with Indonesian universities in Surabaya, which is eastern part of the Java island. So Ayalanga University is a partner of ours, and you can see the various courses that is available for the Ayalanga University students. So this is how it looks like. And when you enroll on a course, you will be able to see on the left what are the various parts of the courses that you need to go through. So for example, for this particular course, it will show you what to look out for when looking at data and results, what to look out for in the abstract, what to look for in a title, etc. Right? So all of this are really valuable information that will equip the researchers with the skills to understand how a paper looks like, what are the important aspects of each of these parts of the paper. And there is also quizzes. So this is the course content, is pre-recorded. You can do it at your own time. And there is also a quiz that needs to be passed. So you will need to answer correctly all of this various quizzes before you can proceed to complete the course. So this course is reviewing in the sciences. We have reviewing in the humanities and social science. We have others courses available on the platform as well. So I have mentioned that we have a community of mentors. So in fact, this is one of the great blessing that we have. We have very passionate mentors globally in various fields, really. And depending on your own research area, you can join each of these community channels to engage with all of these mentors who are experts in their own fields. So they will be able to guide you if you have any questions on the course content. If you have any questions on your research, many of them are more than happy to send some pointers to you and even collaborate with you if there are opportunities to do so. So there is also an assignment. So in this case, is really peer review assignment. And what this does is that it really trains you to utilize the skills that we have taught you in this course. And really, the basis of this is applying what the reviewers will be looking out for in a manuscript so that you understand when your paper is being submitted, what are reviewers looking for. So in this way, you are really putting yourself in the shoes of a reviewer, and you will be able to appreciate why certain comments are being made, why and how a reviewer will think and do when they look at your manuscript. And it is from this experience that you will be able to write better. You will be able to understand your manuscripts a lot better. So this is how this looks like on the Web of Science Academy platform. And we also provide templates for you to hone your peer reviewing skills. And this is a kind of like a template that you fill in. You will be able to connect with a mentor who will be able to advise you what are the areas that you are doing well, which are the areas that perhaps you need additional work on. So you will also be able to share some of these experiences with other people that is in the channels. So this is really a community that allows you to not just be able to learn, but also connect with global experts that is engaged with the Web of Science Academy. Right, so these are some of the screenshots that shows you how to share your content with mentors that is in the channel. So this is the Web of Science Academy certificate, which I have talked about. So if you are a former partner of the Web of Science Academy, we will be able to put in the institutional logo. We have done this in Indonesia somewhat successfully. People really love this, and universities can actually use this as a way to onboard early career researchers. If you are using our free version, then you will also have something like this, but without any institutional logo. So you will need to pass through all of the courses, answer the quiz correctly, and you will be issued this Web of Science Academy certificate that is available for you. And the proof is in the pudding, right? So these are actually some of the testimonials from our mentees. So this is recorded from the old academy, which we call the Pablons Academy. So you can see on the left here, Dr. Miguel has mentioned that the course really provides very practical and useful tools. And they really help him to better understand peer reviewing, and with that, allow him to better appreciate how to write a good paper. So on the right here, we have another testimony to say that is not just learning, but it's also having a lot of fun to be able to apply these concepts in an actual assignment. And the actual assignment will actually be reviewed by these community mentors who will be able to give you pointers on what is good and what areas require additional work. All right, so this is what I have for the Web of Science Academy. I can show you just very quickly how this looks like. You can Google for the Web of Science Academy. In this case, you see it talks about online training support. You can enroll and sign in here. Various courses, right? Peer review, good citation behavior, reviewing in the sciences, humanities, and we have new courses that is constantly being added. So upcoming, we will have an introduction to research ethics, and keep a lookout for this if you find this interesting. So you will log in, and this is how this looks like. Once you log in, you will be able to see that there are various courses that you can join. If you need some help, there are FAQs here. So let me show you how this looks like. So all this is actually the free version. So all of you on the call today can actually search for it, and you will be able to do this. So each of this, you know, what is new, which are the ones that I have completed and open to enrollment, which one I have enrolled, which one I have not. And you will be able to see here as well that who has actually interacted with me. So there are people that have shared their review with me, and I will be able to look at what they have shared with me and provide comments as necessary. And the reason why I have this is because I am signed up as a mentor within the community. But if you sign up as a student, then obviously you have the opportunities to interact with the various mentors that is on this platform. All right. So there are other points as well, that the more you contribute to the platform, the more points you have. And just maybe show you what are the various courses that is available. Right? I think the language here, English will work fine, and various durations of the courses. All right. Okay, so with this, then I don't have anything else to show you when it comes to the Web of Science Academy. I'm happy to take any questions you might have when it comes to the Academy, and maybe some feedback as well. Do you find this useful, interesting for you to want to try it out yourself? So before I stop, I would like to also maybe say a few words about ScholarOne in SciEnggJ. So ScholarOne is the premium and very well-known manuscript management system, and we are very, very fortunate that SciEnggJ has this system as well. So this system would allow you to very quickly and very easily submit your manuscripts and be able to track what is happening with your manuscripts. And from an editorial perspective, the editors at SciEnggJ will be able to handle your manuscript in an automated fashion. They will be able to inform you what has happened to your manuscript, find reviewers for you, etc., etc. So, President Giselle, I'm not too sure. How much more do you want me to talk about ScholarOne, or is this good enough as an introduction? And I can probably stop here and take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Dr. C. There are some of our participants who are not familiar with ScholarOne. Maybe just share a screen on ScholarOne if you have one available now.
Share a screen. Okay, maybe just give me a moment.
Here.
I can share with you how the ScholarOne looks like from author perspective, just maybe give me a moment, I will open something.
And if you may share information on which Philippine journals use ScholarOne, and obviously they would have to be online journals. Am I right?
That is correct, yes.
Well, I'm just curious whether any UP-based journals are powered by ScholarOne. I know De La Salle journals use ScholarOne. Any others aside from DLSU and SciEnggJ?
We have the 3 journals that is under the UP Diliman Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research. Those 3, I think you are familiar, Science Diliman, Social Science Diliman, and Humanities Diliman. All 3 of them are using ScholarOne.
That is wonderful to know.
I'm trying to see whether I can find where this is. All right, I am seeing, just maybe give me a moment. Okay, I'm seeing the SciEnggJ author dashboard for ScholarOne on the screen right now. Do you need me to go through this, or how do you want me to proceed with this? Okay, maybe I can probably show you how this looks like in a demo environment, so that will help our audience today better appreciate how this looks like. All right, I hope you can see my screen. So this is ScholarOne manuscript. You have seen how it looks like in SciEnggJ briefly just now. So this is how it looks like on our demonstration account. So this is not a real journal. This is just really set up in a way to show you how it may apply to various journals. So I am being logged in now as an author. So how this looks like would be when you logged in as an author, the first thing you will see is what we call the author dashboard, which I have explained earlier on briefly, that it shows you what you are supposed to do, right? So in this case, I have 2 manuscripts that I have not fully submitted, so I only submitted halfway, and then I have like 10 manuscripts that have already have decisions. So in this case, it will work out for SciEnggJ as well. If you publish with SciEnggJ, very often you will have records of what is happening with your manuscript. All right, so this will be the status, when have you submitted, when is the decision being made, and what you are supposed to do. You can view the decision letter in this case, saying that this has been accepted. All right, so all of this is done in an automated fashion, so you don't have to keep emailing the SciEnggJ editors asking them what's happening with my manuscript, have you received my manuscript, etc. So all of this is not necessary. You can see it from the author dashboard. So this is how it looks like. I have submitted 3 of them, and what is happening with my manuscript in this manuscript, it is awaiting reviewer assignment. So it is at a stage whereby the editor have seen it, and then they are waiting for reviewers to review your journal. And then in this one, this is really very early stage. We are waiting for the admin to process. So I know that this has some more way to go. And in this case, this is really at a very late stage. The reviewer has already been assigned, and we are waiting for the scores of the reviewer. So meaning we are waiting for the review to be completed. All right. So I can show you how the submission works. So just show you, so you can begin submission. So this is actually one of the AI enabled features that you will be able to just drag and drop a Word document in this box, and you will be able to pre-fill a lot of the various fields, and I'll show you what this means. Just give me a moment. I need to find a demo manuscript for this. All right, okay, I have found it. Just all right, so this is how it looks like. I can show you the manuscript. So this is a manuscript that, you know, with a title, abstract, and then the author names and various parts of the manuscript that is all there. So what we can do is I will drop this. Sorry, just give me a moment. I will drop this manuscript in here, and it will kind of process it very quickly, and that's weird. Let me try to do it again. This one, manuscript. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be working today. Okay, but I can proceed to show you how the submission looks like. So as you continue to have the submission, you will here as an author, there are various steps that you need to do. So you need to complete all of these various steps. And this can look different from SciEnggJ, right? So I can work with the SciEnggJ team to optimize this. So depending on what type of manuscripts the journal accepts, we can put all of this in here. So in this case, I will just choose original article. You can put in the title of your paper. You can put in the abstract of your paper. So usually this will be copy and pasted. If there's a special issue, you can indicate a special issue. If not, then we can proceed just very quickly. And this is done. So you can see there's a tick here. That means that this is fine. You have completed this step. And then for the second step will be all of the files that you are supposed to upload. So in this case, there are various files that you can upload. So obviously you will need to have the main manuscript, but beyond that, if you have supplementary files, you have data files, then this is also requested. I remember President Giselle saying in one of the FIRESIDE chats that to maintain the integrity of the journal will actually ask for supplementary files. So all of this can be uploaded in this particular case. So I will just very quickly upload this. Let me just close this. All right, so I can just upload this very quickly, and it's not a big file, so I don't think it will take that long. So once it's done, and then it will be included here. You can remove it or you can review it if you want. So in this case, I will not upload anything else. Right, so this is completed. If there are any keywords, you can just put in the keywords in this case, right? So carbon nanotube, for example. So I can just do this, and then here it says it requires 3. So I can add in each of this keywords. And depending on the journal, I can work with SciEnggJ on this as well, that there is an area of specialty that you can put in, you can choose. So depending on what SciEnggJ has here, you can actually choose from the list. So this can be a different list from SciEnggJ, because this is a just a demo site. So you can see that this is done. Author information, you can put in various author information. If there are various authors, then just add in their emails here. And I will not add any other author in this particular demo. So in this case, you are at a stage of choosing the reviewers. So this is not choosing your reviewers per se. This is really providing to the journal a list of possible reviewers. So in this case, this is not required because there's no asterisk here, right? So it is fine for me to just proceed. If SciEnggJ requires you to recommend reviewers, then you will need to add reviewers here by filling in certain names. And there are 2 aspects to it, right? You can recommend a reviewer or you can oppose the reviewer. So recommend reviewer will be looking at people that have the expertise to review this particular manuscript. And when would you oppose a reviewer? I have only seen one situation for you to oppose, and usually it's because this particular person is a competitor of yours, or this particular person has some conflict of interest. If not, then there is no other reasons. So usually this will be the only reasons for opposing anybody. All right. So once you're happy with this, you can continue with this submission. And then suddenly at this point, if you realize that, oh my God, I have something else to do, my baby is crying or etc., you can just stop here. It's fine. You can come back and continue later on. All right. So you don't have to do this all at one go. You can just do it. You can just save it. And if you have something else to do at this point, you will be able to come back to it. So it says it has been saved. I can go back to the author dashboard. I can, if I have a lecture to do, I can go and do my stuff. And when I come back, I will be able to see this particular submission, which I created today, and is not submitted and is in draft. I can continue with this. All right. So don't think that you need to complete everything by one shot. You can do it partially. All right. So in this case, this will be the step 6. So very quickly, if you have cover letter, if you have funding, then you just fill all of this in. These are fairly intuitive. And you have to confirm that if this manuscript has been submitted before, in this case, no. If there are any charges, you have to agree to them. So SciEnggJ, I understand, have article processing charges. So perhaps these are some of the questions that you will need to fill in that you are willing to pay for the charges. All right. So, yeah, in this case, I will need to fill in the funders. So let's say I have no funding, I can just proceed. If there is funding from DOST or CHATS or any other sources, please fill that in as well. Okay, so in this case, this will be really the final step that shows you what is happening with your manuscript. If you're happy with it, then you can submit. All right. So the last thing before you submit will be what we call the PDF proof, which is a PDF version of what you have submitted. And this will be the version that is provided to the reviewers. So this is the manuscript. You will see there's a watermark that says for review only. So this would be the copy that will be given to the reviewers. All right, so review it, just look through it. If you're happy with it, close it, and you will be able to submit. So in this case, I need to see the HTML proof as well. So it's the same thing, is only that it is in HTML format. Ensure that everything is correct. So once you're happy with this, then you will submit. All right, so are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. And voila, that's it. So once this is done, it will confirm that you have already submitted. And when you go back to your author dashboard, you will see a new submitted manuscript. In this case, this one created today, submitted today, and right now it is awaiting the admin to do something with it. All right, so this is it. I hope this has been clear. The instructions are not confusing or anything like that. Really, it is quite intuitive. You will be able to see what you need to do on the left of it. And if there are any problems, the system will prompt you and you will be able to just correct them before your submission. All right, this is it for me. Any questions, any comments, happy to take them.
Thank you, Dr. C, for a comprehensive information about what Clarivate and ScholarOne can offer and for accepting our invitation. So if you have any questions, this is the time.
Quick question, C. How much is the peer review course?
The peer review course, you mean for this, right? So this is the paid, you are referring to the paid version, right? So in this case, most of the time we will require a minimum number of participants. So let's say 100, over 12 months, for example. And typically we will charge something like between $30 to $50 per person, something like that. So depending on the volume, right? So that's kind of like a ballpark. And you will have access to this over a 12 months period.
Thanks. Another question, Dr. C. So the process for reviewers is just as simple as it is for authors, right? So in SciEnggJ, we have editors in charge who have to contact the reviewers, and they are given access to the documents. Maybe just a word or two about that.
Yep. I'm trying to just give me a moment. I can show you how this looks like for a reviewer, just very quickly, because the reviewing process, as you have pointed out, is fairly straightforward. You will be inviting the reviewers. The reviewers would the reviewers will be able to access. All right, so this is how it looks like. I hope you can see it. So you see just an email like this. So it will say you have been invited as a reviewer for this manuscript. The abstract appears at the end of the letter, which is here. So all this is automatically done, which is very easy for the editor. And for the reviewer, there are three things they can do, right? Either they agree, they decline, or they state that they are not available. So these are the links. So once you have clicked on it, you will be led to the ScholarOne website. So let me show you how this looks like for a reviewer. So very quickly. In this case, it's unable to process because this is an old invitation that has been completed already. That's the reason. All right. So if it is a live review, you will be able you will be able to log in to see that manuscript. All right. So I don't have a manuscript right now to show you, but the idea here is that once you are invited, you will receive an email like this. It will be the name of the journal. In this case, it will be SciEnggJ. And you have a manuscript ID, all right? And according to the abstract, this is important because it gives the reviewer an idea whether or not this is something that is within their expertise. So if they read the abstract and realize that, hey, this is not really my area of work, then they will be able to decide there and then to decline it. Okay, so that's how it works. And to give you an idea as well, after you have submitted your review, it will have a thank you email sending to you. So there will be a manuscript ID, right? The name of the journal, which in this case will be SciEnggJ. And you will say, thank you for reviewing for this. and it will be sent by the associate editor or the editor-in-chief. So in this case, it is sent by the associate editor. All right. So this is how it looks. I hope this is straightforward enough. The whole point of this is really that it is so intuitive that most of the time when you receive this, you will naturally know what to do. So it's not something that is complicated, that you require hours and hours of training to know what to do.
Thanks for that, Dr. C. Dr. Anne, perhaps we can move on to our next speaker. We just heard Dr. Super C.
Yeah, this is just a name for the journal. All right, I'm really happy to be here. Let's move on. I'm happy to hear the other speakers as well.
Speaker, Gubit Advintulan. Thank you, Gubit, for being here. And we will learn a lot from you on how the SciEng journal will be managed also.
Well, thank you, Anne, and thank you, Dr. C, for that very useful overview of the ScholarOne Clarivate platform. And again, thank you, Anne, for the generous introduction, and of course, Giselle for organizing this meeting, to all our champions with PAASE and also with our SciEnggJ journal. So I'm happy to present today a talk about best practices in publishing. And hopefully you will find this useful. I'm speaking to the audience. Also, this will give you a window by which you have choices, you have methods, and of course, opportunities to get your research out there. And we are doing this because we would like to, of course, promote our very own journal, the official journal of the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering. As you'll see there, you probably have published or have heard of the Philippine Science Letters, which was founded by Dr. Concepcion and Dr. Padlan. And since then, we have tried to do our best in terms of promoting this journal, not only to PAASE members, but to the scientific community in the Philippines and beyond. So this is an international journal. And it's called SciEnggJ, but if you don't like that SciEnggJ, you can officially say it's the Science and Engineering Journal. So to begin with, let me introduce my research platform, and then the bulk of this talk really is about best practices in publishing. So I'm a professor at Case Western Reserve University, University of Tennessee, and also with Oak Ridge National Laboratory. A number of things you can, of course, do at Google is search your name or search your publication record. And Google Scholar actually produces this as a profile for a lot of scientists. And you can see here the citation or by year. If you click by year, you'll see the latest. One of the things that I'm proud to say is because of my collaboration with DOST and Professor Deason of BPSU, our most cited paper actually was a paper published with Coker Deason to date on mechanical characterization of 3D printed polymers. So you like to, for example, look at the metrics by which your peers view your profile. And this is a good exercise for you are aspiring in terms of your publication outreach. Now, I've been associated with many journals through the years, primarily with the American Chemical Society journals, being a advisory and editorial board members in the past of macromolecules, Langmuir, applied materials interfaces. I'm currently with the board, advisory board of the macromolecular journals of Wiley VCH. I used to be the editor-in-chief of Reactive and Functional Polymers of Elsevier. But these days, I serve as the editor-in-chief of MRS Communications, an official journal of the Materials Research Society, and published with Springer Nature. And we use ScholarOne a lot in all of these journals, and probably majority of the journals that I work with. It's a very good platform, not only for authors, but for reviewers as well. So more about our research, and I'll tell you why I will go through this. We do a lot of research on materials, on macromolecular chemistry, nanostructuring, patterning, development of sensors, electrochemical methods of polymerization, sensing, and so on. And really, I'm a chemist in terms of expertise, regional expertise anyway. So we like to synthesize molecules, macromolecules, polymers that emit light. We like to graph polymers on surfaces, so-called polymer brushes, nanostructuring of materials on a layer-by-layer basis, where we look at electrostatic adsorption, or reaction at interfaces, including patterning. We've done a lot of work on what we call hybrid dendrimer systems. This step-by-step synthesis is based on a hyperbranching approach where we can vary the core and investigate energy transfer and charge transfer properties. More recently, we've done a lot of work on supramolecularly templated polymers that makes use of the NATI templating or catenation to make supramolecular structures. And in the past and even now, we do a lot of bioengineering and biomedical studies work. In fact, the work we did with our colleagues at the University of the Philippines, where we use QCM and surface plasma resonance sensing to detect dengue protease and proteins using quartz crystal microbalance, was recently published with analytical and bioanalytical chemistry. And we've done work on CPMV viruses. These are not SARS viruses, these are plant viruses, functionalizing and making thin films. On the other hand, the analytical side of our operation, we've done a lot of work on surface plasma resonance spectroscopy and sensors. This is one of the capabilities that we brought to the Philippines, actually, in collaboration with the Institute of Chemistry, the ANSWER Laboratory. And then lastly, we have focused on 3D printing, 3D and 4D printing, a collaboration, again, with a number of scholars that were sponsored by DOST, and ultimately resulted to a center that was established on 3D printing and some of our research papers. So why did I show all these things? Well, this is basically a gratitude to the number of Filipino scholars who spent time in my lab, getting their master's and PhD at the university, spending time as visiting scholars, short scholars through various programs, and a testament to their contribution in the publishing game. In that through the years, I've enjoyed not only mentoring, but seeing their careers blossom. The last engagement I have as far as DOST scholars was the program we established to train 3D printing experts that most of them eventually returned to the Philippines, including Kokoy, Arnold, Andrew, the Palaganas, Jill, and a number of students here, and some of my uh, former PhD students who now work in various companies. And as a testament, you can see here their contribution is not small. I have published more than 133 high impact papers with these Filipino scholars. And so my thanks and pride in having worked with you to have such productivity. Now, let's go on with the real story. So you are here because you're curious about the new platform we have. Indeed, the Science and Engineering Journal is happy to partner with Clarivate and use the ScholarOne. And part of the future success of the journal is utilizing this platform very well, okay, if not to the optimum. So what I'm going to do is simply encourage you to take into the publishing game, and I'll give you some very useful advice. So first of all, why publish? Well, if you're a scientist, engineer, or part of the research enterprise, publishing is integral to the scientific research process. We have to communicate results. We have to communicate findings that ultimately benefit society, but also our community. Um, this allows us to actually give credence and reward to the hard work that was done by our group, by ourselves, or our students. We publish for high impact. We just don't publish reports, duplication of previously published work, or flawed research. We want to influence, therefore, publishing new regional results or methods, or we can review the field, be vanguard in terms of where the field is going. In general, we want to publish papers that advance the understanding in a field or communicate well with our peers. Now, an obvious question is which journal to publish. Well, choosing an audience is equal selecting the right journal. And I can tell you that with the science and engineering platform, this will only grow. Not only is it a platform for Filipino scientists to put their best work, but we endeavor to make this a reputable, highly reputable international journal. So we welcome contributions from various fields, expertise, and of course, your best work. So in choosing a journal, what are you trying to say and to whom? You should know your audience, interests, know your limitations and conclusions. So very often you publish to a journal where most of your peers publish, okay? Another is you can ask, what is the current stage of your research? Is it a work in progress, completed research? Are you beginning in the publishing game? Sometimes, and I've done it in the past, a lot of my students began by publishing their works in proceedings, symposia, or even journals that have a very high motivation to increase their impact factor. What is the scope of your work? You focus on particular topic in depth, or you want to address a broad appeal. What is the correct article format? Well, you need to, again, know your audience needs, know your weakness and strengths. That means you decide, again, your choice of a letter, full article, or review. Essentially, you want to target your communication with the maximum impact for your community. And you want it to be relevant, archived, and citable. And SciEnggJ journal is definitely citable. Now, what are your general choices for publishing? Well, they do not mean one is superior over the other. It just depends on what you communicate and what stage of work you would like to bring out there. Letters or communications or rapid communications, this is a way to communicate early a significant and original body of work. Sometimes you'd rather have the work published quickly or in that format. It's not shorter because it doesn't lack content, but you decide to make it shorter simply because the significance of the work warrants it to be published right away or in a shorter time frame. So it's typically shorter than an original letter. Now, a full paper, an original article embodies full research. You may say it's a complete story, but then it could be a series of paper, but very important a series of paper. And each one will be a full research, and very often, in my style, full research papers typically constitute a chapter of my PhD student's thesis. Now, you also want in a full paper to have a full story that lays out the significant content that advances the research field. In other words, you want this to be something that is archived and perhaps will ripe well over time. Another format is review paper. Review papers tend to be a summary of a specific topic, state of the art, or a broader aspect that encompasses many sections. It's typically longer than an original article and by invitation. Some review papers come in the form of perspectives, meaning you're able to add more flavor or futuristic outlook of the field, and that's also acceptable. And this you can find in most journals as available platform for your publication. So let's talk a little more about them in detail. The letters or communications represents a completed research, but in a concise form. This represents novel results. It's not a short report and should be impactful. Starts with hypothesis-driven statements and objectives, as is your full article. It's very important that when you communicate science, you communicate the hypothesis very well, because that means you are aiming or targeting something that has to be proven. In fact, even as you start research, and by the way, I need to emphasize, publications represents a lot of work, research work, hard work by researchers, students, postdocs, professors, and they have to be targeted very well. As a scientific method, it always starts as a hypothesis-driven experiment. Defining the problem or the need of the study is quite important to generate interest in the work. So you have to define the story that way. In a way, a paper really is storytelling. One thing I can say to a lot of Filipinos is we like making stories, giving stories, and hopefully not giving chismis or irrelevant stories or even fake news. But one skill that you can easily take as a communicator is being able to tell stories. And publications are like that. It's just giving a good story, proving that story, and then giving a conclusion to that story, a take home message. Okay, and of course, publication. So letters would contain a full embodiment of that work in a shorter format. So you have a technical description, perhaps smaller word count, fewer figures, shorter abstracts, fewer references, and then supplemental information. So supplemental information is something that we can avail in this digital age. And I'd like to tell my students that whatever you want to communicate that you cannot fit in a short format, put it in the supplemental data and make sure it's relevant to the work. So this is a way of extending your reporting by taking advantage of supplementary information or publishing it as methods. Now, a full research article, which as I said, I rely on as a body of work that's complete, and typically I ask my graduate students to use this as a chapter. It represents a full-length article focused on original research, longer, more fully developed, discussion of the research results, more figures, shorter formats, and you expect to make a significant contribution to the body of literature, emphasizing your contribution, quantitative, interpretable, and of course, you should not use this to report minor increments. Sometimes the difficulty is in a series of papers or full articles. They look like incremental work, but I've seen very good series of full articles that are really original bodies of work. So you want the full research article to be quite citable, highly citable, and an archive of your best work. Now, another format is based on reviews or perspective. So in reviews or perspective, you can look at this as a comprehensive and critical assessment of the field, the literature. You check the journal guidelines, of course, review articles as limitations, and very often requires a proposal to the editor. It should be outlined, formatted very well, understandable, even sometimes to the non-specialists or new to the field. So a lot of people who are new to the field rely on reviews to educate them. And therefore, a little bit of education or introduction to the new readers is very important. And then the relevant peer-reviewed literature citations have to be thoroughly combed for relevance, also the impact that it might have in the future. Perhaps doing an analysis of the literature and present it as useful figures, tables, compilations, or even making a good perspective of the future of this field can be part of this review article. Being quantitative whenever possible, of course, with regards to the formatting and the SI units. So you've done your work, you're ready to publish. Where do I start? Well, you've done your choice of the journal. Of course, you need to read the guidelines, pay attention to the ethical standards, copyright transfer, and you have to submit only to one journal. You cannot submit once to several journals at once. If you get rejected, then it's time to think of another journal or appeal it. But you can only submit to one journal at a time. Okay. Of course, check the English, the style, the spelling, grammar, syntax. There's a technical style or language I used to recommend to my students to use the ACS style guide, Strunk and White. And then lastly, you need to show your integrity. And sometimes an authentication test, a Turnitin test for your own confidence will be a good one to do before you even submit it. Believe me, all journals today, they look at the authentication score or plagiarism possibility. And there's only one single ethical standard for science. It doesn't exist differently in the Philippines, in China, anywhere. There's only one single ethical standard. Okay, let's go for impact. So things to emphasize. How do I make my paper relevant? Well, first, let's talk about the title. The title is quite important. Emphasizes the main contribution or story of your paper or your work. So these are examples. You would say effects of layer thickness on thermoelectric properties. Quite succinct. It tells the story, it tells the relevance, the cause and effect. Or you can say enhanced thermoelectric properties in lead tellurium via nanolayer. Well, that's very specific and it speaks a different aspect of the work that you want to emphasize. Or you can be very relevant by making it very short, nanolayer thermoelectric, especially if you really want of the first in the field. And sometimes, and I advise to my authors who submit to MRS Communications, think about your title very well, because a good title can invite the reader to eventually read your abstract. Okay, next impact chance is your abstract. The abstract has to be written quantitatively about the key results and findings. Do not make it merely a list of experimental techniques. That is obvious, okay? When they read the work, they will find out about these techniques. The abstract has to catch the attention of the reader, because that means without the abstract, they will not read the rest of your paper. It is not a repetition of the introduction. Somewhat it's related to the conclusion, but it's also not a repetition of the conclusion. A good abstract really embodies the work, emphasizes the main points or highlights, and then gives a one-line conclusion at the end, perhaps, of the abstract. Okay, another impact point, the figures. Figures demonstrate your professionalism and commitment to quality and excellence. Poor figures discourage reading your paper. Figures that do not complement what you wrote on the text should be removed. Figures sometimes can look bunched, or some figures can be relegated to the supplementary information. Take the time to make nice figures. Give credit if you're going to use a figure from another author. Okay, never, of course, plagiarize a figure or not acknowledge it properly. So a well-thought, well-designed figure speaks much about the quality of the paper and the commitment of the author. Now let's talk about ethics. So the scientific ethics, as I said, as I mentioned earlier, is universal. Beware of fabrication, falsification, hidden, unacknowledged by omission or commission, and duplication of results. Publications definitely avoid plagiarism or even self-plagiarism. Publishers very often use platforms like Authenticate, Turnitin to check for plagiarism. So it might do you well to check your work with these platforms even before submitting. All authorship should be true, acknowledged. Sometimes, in most platforms today, indicate conflict of interest or the contribution of each author. Properly acknowledge research funding, researchers, avoid duplicate submission of publication for sure. And you can make a very good conflict of interest statement. So with all these things cleared, you usually have no problems with ethics. Protect your name, protect your reputation. Now, how do I further increase the visibility and support that I can get for my paper? Well, you can first of all be familiar with the publishing platform offered by your journal. You should read the guidelines. You should look at the platforms that they use. Or do they associate with specific social media platforms? The easiest way you can get high visibility in your paper is generate a link, get the DOI, direct object, the linker for your paper, share it with friends, share it with your group, maybe share it with your mom and dad, make them feel proud like my children sometimes do to me. You can put it in the social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, share your research with your colleagues in the community. Or you may even consider writing a short blog. And sometimes a short video is offered to explain more about or introduce your paper. And again, be familiar with the author guides, the promotion support, make the most of it, and promote your work. And with that, I'd like to thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, take suggestions, or comments. And by the way, I'm sorry, I need to acknowledge a lot of my platform on best publishing practices is done from my experience with Materials Research Society, MRS Communication. So we often do this when we ever have an annual meeting. So this is not the last you'll hear from this, since it's going to be in YouTube. I bet Giselle will forward this YouTube link to as often as she could.
Yes, go Bet. Thanks for that very informative and inspiring talk, go Bet. I always say you are like a model PAASE member, okay? Trying to help us in very many ways, applications as well as the most basic, responsibility of a researcher, good model for young researchers, which is to publish in good journals your high quality work.
So I'll be happy to answer questions, as I'm sure Dr. C is. You can put it on the chat. You can raise your hands. I think this is a good time to get questions, or some questions you might ask could be a question that somebody else wants to ask, but they were afraid to ask. So please do so.
So, Gobet, I think at this point we should ask this question about who are the best reviewers of, say, manuscripts in SciEnggJ. So, well, we're talking about the research articles and not the reviews, which would come from experts in the field, and they're solicited by us, no? But let's talk about the regular research articles. Now, it seems to be a major bottleneck in SciEnggJ that we have many reviewers and well, members of the SciEnggJ editorial board who are well-known researchers in their fields, who are PAASE members. But from experience, Dr. Wendell Rivera, my co-editor, who unfortunately cannot join us today, and our SciEnggJ team, we have a difficult time getting our reviewers and editors in charge to accept the review. And so in previous conversations we've had, you suggested that perhaps the best pool of reviewers would be coming from our young researchers, PhDs, postdocs who have already published, and well, they have the time and the experience to do the reviews, because all the senior scientists and researchers are just too busy with admin work and also with writing proposals. So can you tell us a bit more about that, both Dr. Advincula and Dr. C, and what are the some of the perks, the benefits, the incentives, the rewards that perhaps these young reviewers might enjoy?
I'm sure Dr. C some suggestions, and Clarivate has some platforms for that. So first of all, yes, I agree with you, Giselle. The review process is very important for the health of the journal. The platform by which reviewers access their manuscript, we have an excellent platform with ScholarOne. Anybody who has not reviewed before, if you use ScholarOne, you will find it easy, helpful, insightful, excellent tool. So having said that, I encourage the listeners in this audience to volunteer as reviewers. And sometimes you just have to contact the journal that you'd like to be a reviewer. I get a lot of emails asking to review the journals. I take it seriously. Being able to put in your resume that you're a reviewer for a journal counts. That means you're able to be a judge or a somebody who can critique honest work and research that will be very relevant to the community. So the other pool, of course, are the authors themselves of this journal. So as we grow the authors of this journal who publish, they can as well be counted as reviewers. But I do encourage, for example, postdocs and even graduate students who are qualified to review. It's no secret that a lot of professors who are busy with publishing really have a hard time finding time to review papers of their peers. And that is not an indictment. That is the reality of just too many things going on. But our young colleagues, and I do ask my postdocs and graduate students to review papers that they're familiar with, and they publish their first or second papers. They are good judges of the work that is relevant to them because they know the format, they know the the field, they've reviewed literature, and so on. And perhaps a future platform is in PAASE, we might give some recognition or awards to our reviewers. And maybe that's a good way for us to reward your hard work in that peer review is a genuine scientific exercise as much as publishing. We don't belittle reviewers' effort. We recognize them, we reward them, and in many journal platforms, this is a ongoing proposition, how to recognize our reviewers.
Thank you, Gobet. Most certainly, we will institute these awards and incentives for our young reviewers. But I think at this point, we might ask Dr. C more about how Pablons works and how it incentivizes our young researchers to serve as reviewers. But I would qualify that these would be researchers who have themselves published already in the field. Dr. C?
Yep. Thank you for inviting me to comment on this point. And it is like Dr. Rigo has mentioned, peer review is really, really important, because if you think about it, every manuscript bare minimum will require 2 reviewers, and that's provided both of them agree on the decision. Very often you will need a 3rd reviewer if there is a tight what do you call that, tight decision, right? One says recommend and one says do not, and then you might need a 3rd reviewer. So the ratio of the reviews to the manuscript is often greater than 2:1. And this means that as a researcher yourself, if you publish one paper, you kind of, if you think about it, right, you kind of owe the community 2 to 3 reviews for every paper that you publish, just because you are getting the service from the community for every paper you publish. Now, the problem, and we know this very well because we had done a survey a couple of years ago looking at people's attitudes to peer review, what they think about peer reviewing, how often do they peer review. And that report actually showed us how severe the lack of review, the lack of reviewers are globally, because I think all of us on the call knows that we have increased research output globally over the years. And as I mentioned, each manuscript needs multiple reviewers. So in effect, we need more reviewers now. But what we found is that the pool of reviewers has not increased over the years. So that causes a lot of strain for all journals globally. And as a published researcher on the call today, I will encourage you to think about the services that the review services that you have gotten for your own papers, and then kind of contribute back to the community when you are asked to review a paper. So these are the findings, really what we have found from the survey. And interestingly, what we have seen or what we have heard from the reviewers is that when we ask them, you know, what encourages you to review for a manuscript, and many of them tell us, number one, they want to give back to the community. Number two, they found that having access to unpublished material actually inspires them to think about their own research better. So it is a combination of factors that encourages reviewers to do review. Now, what did not come up is also very interesting. We asked whether if we pay you to review, is that a good incentive? And surprise, surprise, right? Very few of them said yes. In fact, many of them, most of them, vast majority, did not say that mandatory awards is a very good encouragement. So in fact, what they want is the recognition that they have participated in this scholarly activity. They want recognition for the fact that they are recognized as an expert in their field. And of course, you don't necessarily ask random people to review for your manuscript, right? You ask experts that are relevant to those fields. So the fact that you are even asked to review for a paper should in itself is already a recognition that the journals see you as an expert. And for many reviewers, that is all that they ask for. All right. So it's not that. So that gives you an idea, right? That it's not so difficult really to encourage reviewers to do more for you. So it's not about paying them. It's really giving them proper recognition of their expertise, their time. So let me share with you what we do. And this is a free platform called Publons. We acquired it a number of years ago. And this is a list of various researchers. I think some of them have created accounts from there to record the number of reviews that they do. And we also record the number of publications in this particular platform. They may not be complete, which is why you will see that some of them might have a lot of reviews but very few publications. So this may not be complete. So to kind of give you an idea, right, I really go to publons.com and I look at the researchers from the Philippines and put in a filter there. And you can see that there are very active reviewers within the Philippines. Many of them are passionate about this, and many of them are also somewhat well published. So very interestingly, you can see that there is no kind of lack of passion in this particular area. Really is about finding the right people, encouraging them to review for you, as well as providing a platform for their efforts to be recognized. So this is what I can show you. And how this relates to the work we are doing with SciEnggJ is this. SciEnggJ, via the partnership we have with ScholarOne, will enable researchers to automatically be recognized when they completed a review with SciEnggJ. So this number. So for example, if Dr. Goh comes and review for SciEnggJ, once it is completed, this number will actually be updated automatically by itself. All right. So you can explore this to look at researchers that has been doing reviews and publications. So I talked about Chris Goh. Just look at his profile, just as an example, right? So you can see sort of his metrics, how many papers he has published and how many reviews he has performed. Now, remember what I mentioned, right? For every paper that you publish, you have gotten at least 2 reviews done for you, at least, right? So for you to sort of gain a balance, in fact, for every paper you publish, you are somewhat obligated to also contribute at least 2 reviews. So you will find very often the top peer reviewers, in fact, they will have more reviews than their published manuscripts, and this is perfectly normal. All right. Okay, so this is what I have to say about peer review. I encourage all of you to take peer review seriously, because by reviewing for other people's work, in fact, it encourages you to think about what is happening within the community, what is happening in the field, to hone your skills, to improve your own research. Now, the last thing I want to mention before I stop would be, remember the Web of Science Academy that I have introduced earlier on. That is really a very, very good platform for new reviewers, new researchers to experience what it is like to do a peer review under the care of our community mentors. And this gives you a real opportunity to better appreciate what is being done when your paper is being submitted. And it really allows you to then appreciate how to position your paper such that peer reviewers are likely to recommend publication for your manuscripts.
That's fantastic, C, Dr. Super C. Anyways, before I call on some of our young researchers who are PhDs and who have done peer review, I'd like to ask Dr. Super C one quick question. What is the future of open review? So early on in Philippine Science Letters, Dr. Padlan and I espoused open naming of the reviewers. First, we would ask our authors to identify their suggested reviewers. And as you indicated, those that should not review because they're competitors or have COI. Then we would find our own reviewers independently. And we run PSL just with the two of us and one webmaster before Richmond for the longest time, just the two of us. Okay, anyways, at some point, Dr. Padlan realized the ideal situation is for a reviewer to be able to stand up openly for his review if the reviewer's contribution is very significant, okay, and change the paper quite a bit, then that reviewer could actually become a co-author of the paper. But anyways, there was a time when we identified the editor-in-chief. Oh, well, we do that, but also the reviewers of the papers. But then when we tried to apply for Scopus, listing, well, it was very explicit that they would not consider a journal that espoused this principle or this policy. So I would like to hear your views on this as well as Dr. Gobet's views.
All right, perhaps I can say a few words on this matter first, and then I will pass it on. So, President Giselle, I think you are right. Peer review, it's really the best that we have when it comes to quality management of the scientific literature. But there are problems with it, right? And some of it you have mentioned as well. If the reviewers identity is not known, then it's not transparent. Sometimes reviewers can hide behind this and give very, very harsh reviews without really helping anything, right? I'm sure as journal editors, you have come across many of these very horrible examples. So as a result of that, there are communities such as yourself who thinks that perhaps having a more transparent, open peer review is one of the ways for us to overcome some of these issues. As far as the community is concerned, I don't think this is mainstream yet. I know that there are some journals that actually does that, but it's still in the minority right now. So the way I see it personally would be there will be a mixture of various modes of peer review, and not what one is not necessarily better than the other. It really depends on the context and the comfort level of individual journals to choose the way they prefer their reviews to be done. In the case of open reviews, we very often hear of fear, especially from early career researchers, when they are asked to review a paper of very well-known or senior researchers. In fact, the early career researchers are concerned that if they point out certain errors or certain things that may not go so well and is openly available, it will harm their career. So you see that it's not so straightforward to say that open is always best and blinded is better, so that there are really nuances like this that makes this a very, very complex issue. Now, suffice to say that we support each of these various peer review avenues. And let me show you what I mean by this. So I have come back to the Publon's website again. In this case, I have searched for publications, and we support peer reviews, we call it transparent peer review, which is what you have alluded to, being open. So you see there are journals. So in this case, International Transactions of Electrical Energy Systems is one of the journals that allows open peer review. And you can see these are the titles. These are the titles of the papers that have been published. And you can see that this is the author, and then this is the reviewer. And you can see these are the very openly published reviews that the reviewers have mentioned. So we support this if the journal tells us that, hey, we support transparent peer review. We will want all of this to be open, and PubLaunch actually is able to support this. So when it comes to the policy of SciEnggJ, we can discuss this offline. If you would like to have something like this, then we are able to support this as well, so that your readers can be confident that whatever has been reviewed is all open. All right. So this is what I have, and I understand this is important for you. However, peer review is really complex, and the way I see it is that there will be more than one viable way of doing reviews moving forward.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. C. So let me give some comments here. I think a lot has been said already about the review process. Let me just actually take this time to encourage submission to the journal. As I mentioned, there are many platforms. There are a number of journals that compete for your best work. The Science and Engineering Journal platform, and as you will see, and you can check out the website, is really a very good platform to publish your first work, your first best work, perhaps, because the readership will only increase, the impact factor will be developed over time, especially with our collaboration with ScholarOne. And the number of venues in terms of the topics range quite widely. Now, having said that, as a PAASE platform journal, it will have a healthy support from the organization and also perhaps from various sectors of the Philippine science and engineering community. But more importantly, as we grow the journal with its international reputation, you can grow with the journal. So I've seen cases where they publish early their best work, and the impact factor just zoomed, so that in the future you can increase, you can cite a impact factor based on that journal from an earlier work when it was somewhat easier to submit. But at any rate, as you can see on the web page, and I don't know if we have time to do that, the promotion of the journal is taken care of. It's easy to read. The open access option is not very expensive. It's accessible. And I really, really encourage the young researchers from various universities to make this journal your home. And by the way, when I say your home, being loyal to a journal is being loyal to a community. And very often we develop that community because that is the community where we would like to be read. And the SciEng is not just a Philippine community, it's an international community that will have far reach and increasing impact factor over the years.
So much, Gobet. That is what I'm typing on the chat box. Being loyal to SciEnggJ means being loyal to the largest and fastest growing group of scientists, engineers, medical doctors of Philippine descent in the Philippines, in the United States, and the whole world. So we're now 490. And by the time we elect our new members this year, towards the end of the year, we will be about 550, right? And with us, we are, inviting fellows, those who are young PhDs or are still PhD students to participate in our activities. I think that's very important. We conceptualize this early on as a training journal for young scientists. So it's really good for you to be publishing in SciEnggJ. It's very attractive for one. So visually, graphically, it's very colorful. It's very friendly with ScholarOne. And we have a dedicated team. Although later I will ask some of our participants to give us both good and not so good feedback about their experiences in the past. But what I want to emphasize here also is in UP, we are listed as an ISI listed journal. Philippine Science Letters has transitioned to SciEnggJ, and Dr. C here will confirm that this transition is recognized by Web of Science, formerly ISI. So you will still be entitled to the International Publication Award. You know, Dr. C, this is not given in advanced countries and leading universities in the world, but there are bigger incentives like this in universities, even in Malaysia. So we still have it at the University of the Philippines because somehow, you know, we need to incentivize our authors. And at the same time, we actually have already imputed the cost of the publications in very expensive journals in our project budgets. But, you know, they're just prohibitive in price. So the way we've done it in the past is, okay, you pay the fee, $1,000, $2,000 for those top rated journals, extra for micrographs and other figures, but then you kind of get it back through your international publication award. Well, anyway, for SciEnggJ, let me tell you that our fees are very reasonable. They're really Philippine environment or condition based. So it's 3,000 pesos for a submission. And if you're a PAASE member, or in the future, if you are a reviewer, an awardee, you get a discount. PAASE members have it for 2,000 pesos. And, you know, we're just...
If I may add...
Yes, go ahead.
Giselle, if I may add, these days, the open access platform is the most widely disseminated platform, free of subscription. Means once we publish it at SciEnggJ, it will have its own DOI, it will have its own web presence, and it's royalty free, quote unquote. And that means you can disseminate it anytime and it's accessible without subscription. Then the other thing that sorry, Giselle, if I'm going to preempt this, for sure in the future, we will have 2 awards associated with the journal. One is the SciEnggJ Lecture Award, which means to be eligible for that award, you have to have published with SciEnggJ, and you can give that, and we'll give that lecture to an international conference of PAASE. And then second, we will have a reviewer award to the most relevant and often reviewer of the journal. And those 2 awards, I believe, definitely will incentivize a lot of enthusiasm for the journal.
Absolutely, Gobet. I think we already discussed this. So these awards will be instituted as soon as possible. We are advertising SciEnggJ in every PAASE event henceforth. So thank you very much for that, Gobet. I think at this point, I would like to recognize the presence of 2 former RAs. They worked in my lab, and then they went to the United States for their PhDs, and they were shepherded or mothered, nurtured by Dr. Ann Villalobos. I am referring to Dr. Romel de Tor and Dr. Beulah Solivio. You know, they're like children of Dr. Ann Villalobos, and they are published, and they have done peer reviews, especially Romel de Tor. So If I may request Romel to speak, and after that, Beulah could speak.
Romel. Beulah is not in the audience. It's her sister, Morwena.
I see. So let's see if Romel has a few words to share with us. And then afterwards, Rowena.
Romel, are you still there? Yes, he's gone.
All right. If Romel is not around anymore, but I could double check. Well, we would welcome anyone to raise your hand and speak, or just speak. Any other concerns regarding publishing in SciEnggJ, or concerns, feedback in the past regarding PSL? I know there have been some, challenges and glitches in the past with PSL, and we regret this deeply, and we strive always to do much better. Nice. I would like to recognize the presence of Dr. Edsel Peña, who is a director of the National Science Foundation of the United States. And I would also like to recognize the presence of Dr. Teodoro Ted Herbosa, who is professor at UP College of Medicine and a trauma and disasters expert, former executive vice president of the University of the Philippines system. All this time through his administrative work, also at the Department of Health, he's prioritized publishing and pursuing his research in his very specialized field. So perhaps you can hear from Dr. Peña, and then afterwards from Dr. Herbosa.
Well, thank you, Giselle. I was trying to stay quiet, so just listening to Dr. Advincola and Dr. C, I completely agree with them. And I think one thing that I'd like to add is the idea of service, of refereeing. That's really important, because science builds because of the community of scientists. And we are all part of it. We submit papers for reviewing by others. So we should also review papers. I get a lot of reviewing opportunities, although my time is very busy, so I'm kind of always late in this reviewing, but I enjoy doing it because in a sense, you get to vet other papers, you get to see what is being done, and you get to help the community. So I encourage young people to do that. It takes a lot of time to review, and you want to do a good job in doing it because it's your integrity also. So I think I encourage you to do that. The other comment I think that I had is about the open review system. I have done that, but I don't think I'm completely for it, because I think when it's an open review system, it compromises the whole review process. When I submit papers, I'd like the worst criticism that the reviewers could give to my manuscripts, because that's the only way that I could improve it. So even if they are harsh, I say that's fine, and I'll try to address the comments that they had to improve the paper, and eventually, of course, it gets published, and that's the interesting thing there. Now, if it's an open review system, there's the aspect of trying to be careful not to hurt the author, and so maybe the honesty and the integrity there kind of goes down. Of course, it is true that some reviewers are very harsh, but I think as reviewers, you need to consider that aspect, that you have to be just honest about how you will review things. So I'm kind of against the open review system. But it is being done in American journals. I have done that. I have some in the internet that were open reviews where I was the reviewer. But personally, I think I'd rather have the blind reviewing system, and reviewers are not known to the authors, especially as Dr. Z had said, there's the possibility that younger people could get penalized later by authors that knew they were these younger people were the reviewers. So I think the integrity part it's just better to keep it that way. Those are the two things that I wanted to comment listening to the things there. Thank you, Giselle.
Thank you so much, Edsel. You know, Dr. Padlan is very idealistic and a kind of theoretical person as well. So that was like, you know, the ideal. The world's your stage, so you can publish online, and you know, there would be free access. But then even reviewers would have to, yeah, stand up by their reviews. But you're right, it's the personal animosities or professional animosities that may be engendered by this open review system. So thank you very much for your comment. At this point, I will ask Dr. Erbosa to make a comment if he is available. Well, while waiting for Dr. Erbosa, he may be in a second meeting. I would like to read the comment question of Dr. Rina Opulencia. Does the journal require consent from co-authors to submit, review, publish the manuscript? This will guarantee that ethics is observed. Recently, one of my advisees sent a manuscript for publication without my consent. Luckily, the publisher informed me by email that the student sent it. So, Dr. Rina, yes, there have been such cases in the past, internationally, such cases have been noted. And in SciEnggJ, we do have this document under ethics that would require that all authors are informed of the publication, of the submission of the manuscript to SciEnggJ. Thank you for that question. Perhaps we can also call on Dr. Elmer Mojica of PAASE University, who might want to make a comment. And after that, Dr. Marge Peña, who is the chair of the board of the PAASE.
Good morning, everyone. There's Filipinas, and good evening to those who are in the States. Well, my experience in review, I think my papers become much better and improved after undergoing revision based on the comments coming from the reviewers. Sometimes you could see, I have bad, it's not really my paper, but we have bad experience, especially if the reviewers are coming from R1. And sometimes the comments that I have is just like ways to discourage you. But the advice that we got from the advisors of mine, I was a postdoc during that time, he said, oh, we just have to take this as a grain of salt. If they don't want to publish our paper, we just get the good reviews that they gave us and just ignore the bad ones and submit it to another journal. So I experienced the journey that you have there. It's not really good experience, but one thing that I learned with the reviews coming from reviewers is it will definitely improve your paper. So meron tayong tinatawag na pain experience, but I think that's part of growing up until you establish yourself as an author and also as a reviewer. Because I also serve as a reviewer in other journals, and as much as possible, if I can accept it as a major revision, I try to do it. But sometimes mali na agad yung experimental design. So I always ask that maybe they have to look at this design, because based on papers that I read from other journals, that these methods won't work, and I don't know how you're able to work on it, especially if I'm familiar with the topic. I think that's the experience that I have both as an author and as a reviewer.
Thanks, Elmer. Thank you, everyone. Dr. Advincula will have to leave in a while. Like I think most of us maybe will stay another 10 minutes. And so if you have more questions with Gobet, please ask them now. Otherwise, Gobet, thank you so much. You can type them in. I'm watching the chat box. But also at this point, maybe Dr. Marge Peña, who's our chair, would like to say a few words in support of SciEnggJ, which is one of the most important projects of PAASE. Marge?
Oh, hi. Good. I guess it's good morning in the Philippines right now. Good evening, morning, everyone. And so I really, this SciEnggJ journal, we have discussed this, I guess, for the past year with the board of BOD of PAASE. And I really want to commend Giselle, Gobet, as well as all of the people who have helped to bring this into fruition, and all of those who voted to make this the instrument of PAASE, our own journal. And what I would like to encourage everyone to do, particularly since we are at the early stages of the journal, as Gobet had said in one of our BOD meetings, we are all in this together. And I really want to thank Anne Villalobos also, whose contributions together with J&J are making this happen, as well as with Giselle and some funds from the BOD to support the journal in its infancy so that we can bring it to a stage where it can actually stand on its own. It's like our baby, right? We're all taking care of it. And so it needs our contributions not just in reviewing, but mostly also in submitting our publications to be reviewed and published here and in many different kinds of forms, as Gobet had mentioned earlier, on the different kinds of publications that can be submitted to the journal. So I really want to encourage everyone to participate, contact your colleagues to do this. It's a very hard process, I can imagine. And as Giselle said, it's hard to find reviewers as well. I know I get invitations to review almost on a weekly basis, and I have had to turn down a lot of things. Right now, I'm actually sitting here with a paper I'm also reviewing. It's a long process, but it also makes the paper better, I think. And I don't think that I've submitted a paper that got published right away. There's always something that somebody else finds, and you'll see that when you think about it, it actually makes your publication so much better, or improves what you have done, because you're seeing it from the eyes of someone who's not really working on the same topic as you are. So the review process is tedious, it's complicated, but to me it's also very interesting because I get to learn a lot of science that other people do that's related to mine, and I can see the directions that the field is going. So I encourage everyone to participate, not just in publication, but also in reviewing. And as Gobet has also said, by the time you get to publishing your paper, you have done a lot of work. And it's a hard process to, well, it's not, it's a long process to get to the point where you can publish a paper. And so you want it to be out there in the best form, because it's basically your face to the world, the work that you show for what you've done. So I really want to encourage everyone, particularly the younger researchers, to engage in the process. You know, if your paper gets rejected, it's okay, try again. And one of these days it will get accepted. So, and hopefully SciEnggJ journal, through all our efforts on the many different aspects, will actually flourish and become really a good trumpet for the work that PAASE does. So thank you, everyone, and let's all get involved. I do want to echo also Edsel's sentiment about sometimes remaining anonymous as a reviewer, because sometimes it colors what you say. but I have reviewed for both journals wherein I reveal, like one journal I'm reviewing for now, I'm communicating with the authors. It's like a communication process between, I'm actually serving as an editor and then also communicating with the authors as well as the reviewers that I've assigned. So it works both ways. I haven't had any bad experience both ways. So it's up to us to make it happen and be a very engaging and learning experience for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for
Gis-
that, Marge.
Giselle, could I also add something?
Yes,
Just
yes, please.
emphasize something. To the young people, I think the way to look at the reviewing process is not in a personal manner. You have to think about it as seeking the truth. And we are all in science because we wanted to discover what is true and what is correct. Nothing else. It's nothing about us. So if a reviewer is very harsh against your paper, don't take that personally. They're just trying to help you in some way. Okay, so take that as a challenge and say, how could I improve this if I could improve it? So never take things personally when it comes to science, because you don't want your paper to have an error and gets published, because if that happens, that will define you forever. It's very difficult, I think, to correct a paper once it is published. So you might as well have it right when it gets published, and that's the process of reviewing. So don't take things personally if somebody's harsh about you. It's not about you. It's about the paper that you had submitted. So, and that's how I view it. I don't get hurt anymore when somebody criticizes my paper. I say, how could I address the reviewer so I could convince them that this is worthy? And that's how you should look at it, I think. So, thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Edsel. That's true. It hurts, but in SciEnggJ, PSL, we've had to reject some papers.
Yep.
Yes.
I think
but,
as scientists, we get used to rejection, not just in papers, but in grants and everything. And
Absolutely.
when you submit something, normally my idea is always that when I submit any kind of paper or application, I know what the weaknesses are. And so as soon as I submit it, I'm trying to do experiments already to address them, so that when the reviewers come and say, hey, this is what's missing in your paper, I'm already a step ahead. But it's one of the realities of being in science, publishing and applying for grants. We get a lot of rejections, but I always say that one successful paper, one successful experiment, if you're a true scientist, that propels you to the next exciting project.
Thanks, Marge. So I think we're down to our last two speakers or commenters, but let me just say that National Scientist Lourdes Cruz would always remind us that you have a responsibility to publish your work. For one, you also learned a lot from the publications of others. So you cite them in your work. You use them as your background for conducting your research, and so it is your responsibility to contribute to the whole body of scientific knowledge. At this point, I would like to call a young engineer, and afterwards we will end with words from Dr. Liza Virata of the US FDA, who's our PAASE treasurer, with her own experience on reviews. But at this point, I'd like to highlight the importance of engineers also publishing. And that is why this journal is called SciEnggJ, which is, I think I coined it. I can say that I did. And we want to emphasize that engineering researchers should also be publishing their work. It's not a very good practice for, say, a device or a design or a new material to be say considered for commercialization or applications by the government or the private sector if the person who is responsible for this device or this material process has not established himself among peers, okay, as being very competent or responsible for high quality work. okay, in the field itself. So I'd like to call Dr. John Ryan Kokoy Dizon. You might say the alter ego, the man, the guy on the ground of Dr. Gobet Advincula, who has published a paper with Gobet that is the most highly cited paper of Gobet's group at this time. I'd like him to speak because, you know, he's like a go-go person and he's already like echoing all the things that he has learned through his master's and PhD studies in Bataan, all the way to the Bataan National Science High School, where he has mentored high school students. Okay, but he's also producing new materials, new devices, etc. So go, Kokoy, please, quickly.
Yes, good morning, Ma'am Giselle, everyone. Good morning. Good evening in the US. Yeah, thank you for that introduction, Ma'am Giselle. And I'm very happy that to be a part of this SciEnggJ journal. Thank you for inviting me to be one of the members of the editorial board. And there are two things, maybe a few more things that I would like to share with the group. Let us be careful with maybe we've not heard yet about identity theft in publications. We know about predatory journals, but I heard recently there are some people or some groups that are stealing the names and the identity of journals, and new researchers, junior researchers are being duped or being naengganyo sila mag-publish sa dun sa journals na yon, and then they pay the registration fees or publication fees, and then after checking ano sila, parang naloko sila dun sa pag-publish. Kinokopya yung name and yung mga logo and everything, gagawa ng sariling website, tapos yeah, marami yung niloloko po doon, and they make money out of that. So let us be careful with predatory journals and also for identity theft, doing identity theft. Second is based on my experience, dumami yung publication ko because of networking and making friends and writing papers and networking with more senior researchers and also with junior researchers. Our group, Professor Gobet and my group here, we try to connect with other people from Southeast Asia and Middle East. We recently I have this submitted a publication with the Malaysian counterpart. We also published with Qatar Professor JJ Kabibihan, and another one in Australia, and some other countries. So what I'm trying to say here is to aside from your own group in the Philippines in your university, or just college friends, or in your graduate school, I would like to encourage everyone to try to increase your network. Kahit na sa umpisa ay medyo pakagat-kagat lang, and then you try to together write a proposal. That's what happened, Giselle, with my partnership with a professor in University of Technology Sydney, Professor Tihing. He's in water research. We wrote maybe 2 papers, review papers, and now NRCP has funded our project on water desalination, which will be implemented in 2023. And then we're trying to publish maybe 8 to 10 papers starting 2023. And with that project, we will be mentoring 2 or 3 junior faculty members here in BPSU. So that's how we increase the network. And also for SciEnggJ, I'm very excited to work with Ma'am Giselle and Sir Gobet in boosting the presence of SciEnggJ, or promoting SciEnggJ in the regions, especially here in our province and region in Bataan and Central Luzon. Yeah, I'm very excited. Thank you for all your support. Actually, we have a project, Sir Edsel, Marge, and everyone. We have a project here in Bataan, together with PAASE, NRC, and the local government, the OST. We're trying to promote science and technology applications to solve local issues or local problems here in Bataan. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Kokoy. Looks like our face-to-face meeting December 3 to 4 will push through. Okay, and thank you for the DOI registration of articles in SciEnggJ that you're working on. Okay, so
Thank you.
I'd like to let everyone know that Kokoy is really an expert networker, and he recently successfully hosted an international forum on advanced manufacturing and advanced materials, IFAMAM. It was so well attended with leading researchers in the field as his keynote and plenary speakers. Thank you. At this point, I'd like to end this fireside chat with words from our PAASE treasurer, Dr. Liza Virata. Are you there, Liza? Can you please speak to us?
Oh, hi, everyone. I don't know what Giselle is expecting me to say as parting words, but it's nice to see the interest and the attendance, of this event. People are interested in SciEnggJ and are willing to support it. We definitely need a new journal like this, in the Philippines, especially for PAASE. It's been actually encouraged here in the US. If you join an association or a society, and then they happen to have a journal associated with whatever. If you're, let's say, with American Society for Virology, they always say, to support the society by submitting articles, to the journal associated with the society. So this is, in a way, following that model. So, that's one way to participate more in PAASE, right? Is to try to submit your research articles in SciEnggJ. And I'm also for, the young people to get into the review side of science. So as a postdoc, that's what was my experience. I started getting these review assignments from my supervisor. So I was able to gain some experience in reviewing other groups' works, and I gave comments, and hopefully that helped with their publication. So that's if you have postdocs in your labs, you can get them started on that. That will also help and will be good for the resume. We're trying to move ahead with Clarivate and get all the financials done, so we'll be set for what? The first 3 years at least, with donations and from Ann Villalobos and SciEnggJ. Thank you very much, as well as from Dr. Giselle Concepcion. And everyone, if you'd like to make a donation, we'll be happy to accept it if you wanna help SciEnggJ along, financially. The publication fees are very reasonable. Just speaking from experience, we just submitted a couple of journals early this year, from where I work in my lab. And it was so expensive just to get one article published, with open access and all that. It was, I was shocked at the price. It was like $4,000. So it takes a big chunk from your research budget.
Yep.
So you have to put that in every year. You like, if you want to publish 2-3 journals, you know, two, 3 journal articles, that should be in your budget. So yeah, so hopefully, you know, we'll get things moving along and are waiting for your contributions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa V. So let me just say that there are many persons that we need to thank, acknowledge for keeping this journal alive. Again, I mentioned Dr. Ed Padlan. So we had this ideal to come up with this journal where Filipino scientists and engineers could publish. And it was modeled after biochemical science letters because many journals are actually have an origin in professional societies and academies. Okay, they're not. You hardly have a journal that is, hosted or published by a university. Okay, and yet we have this in the Philippines, or by the say USNIH, and yet we do have the Philippine Journal of Science, which is published by the Department of Science and Technology. Okay, what we have is, say, the Proceedings of the National Academies of Science of the United States, which is really was published by the National Academies of Science of the United States. So we were thinking perhaps that this would be a good journal published by an organization like PAASE. And it sort of ensures the what you call an objectivity of review and publication, okay? Because there would be less conflict of interest than if it were published by a university, okay, that is promoting its own publications. And I questioned this when I was in administration in UP. There were 28 journals in the UP Diliman, okay, and very few articles published, for each journal. So now it's nice to know that they have unified it to UP Diliman, Sciences, Engineering, Social Sciences, and Humanities. And well, happy to know from Dr. C that it also uses ScholarOne. So I think we've had a very extensive, in-depth discussion of issues in publishing. And before ending this, I would very much like to acknowledge deeply the contributions of our single man webmaster of the SciEnggJ. His name is Mr. Richmond Pancho. He's also the webmaster of PAASE. Okay? And with him now, we have another staff, is Vincent Theodosi. I'd like to make present my co-editor, Dr. Wendell Rivera, who unfortunately has a very important meeting at this time. So thank you, everyone, to all our participants who listened in and who contributed to the discussions and typed in questions. Please support SciEnggJ for our own good and for the good of our whole country. Thank you very much. And till our next meeting, this is on Friday. This is on Friday, November 19th. We have an important, historic, momentous event. And this is the MOU signing with new partners of PAASE. These are 4 Taiwanese universities, and we had informed the board about this. The final documents will be shared on Monday, and 1 Taiwan academic umbrella organization. And this MOU, again, is to help the rest of the STI community. First goal would be to develop and offer micro-masters short courses for Philippine industries. And the second goal would be to promote master's and PhD studies between Philippine and Taiwanese universities. As you know, Taiwan is our closest neighbor. And we already have SUCS faculty and researchers who are interested to do their masters and PhDs in Taiwan with a hybrid arrangement, online and actual training in Taiwan. And that would cost us the least amount of money because of the short distance between Taiwan and the Philippines. So that's an important event next Friday. I hope you can all join us. Thank you very much. Have a good day and have a good evening.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning still.
Good afternoon,
Thank you.
Marge. Thank you so much.
Still good morning. Right, great